So hi everyone, it's Dr. Nonnie again. Nice to see you after such a long time. I'm back in the UK and I have another guest for my Dr. Nonnie interviews. Now I got some statistics for you before I launch into our topic today. The topic for today is on teenage mental health. And unfortunately, I was looking at the NHS digital and the statistics are not good. There's quite grim readings. I'll just read it out to you so that I don't make any mistakes with this. So this is at the end of January 2022, so that's just about 8 months ago. It was said that 1.5 million, 54 million people contacted the NHS for problems with mental health. So mental health problems, people were calling the NHS, different sources, probably most likely the GPs, and asking for help with mental health. Of that number, 400,000 were children. Can you buy 0.4 million children every month, not in the whole year, every month. And then the main issues the children were talking about were anxiety, there was self-harm, there was eating difficulties, suicidal thoughts. And then in February 2022, they went on to Place to Be, did a survey, it's a joint survey with the National Association of Head Teachers. And they did a survey, and that survey, the head teachers were reporting that from the beginning of the academic year, so that would have been September last year, the survey showed that the kids who had now come back to school post-COVID, they could see an increase in mental health cases in those children. And what the head teachers were reporting were low self-esteem. That was 86%. So nearly all the children had low self-esteem, 86%. I mean, that's a kind of score you want when you do an exam, not this kind of thing. Depression was 76%, and 67% expressed constant thoughts of anger, constant. So you just have all these young people walking around with anger, depression, low self-esteem, suicidal thoughts. I mean, I think even as a parent, as a GP, this is heartbreaking. And it's not just here, because as many of you know, I moved to Canada last year, and we see a lot of mental health as well in my practice. And so what can we do to help? We know the NHS are breaking points. And so we need to get help, basically. We need other people to come in and share their expertise. And so you'll be pleased to hear I have brought you help. As I usually try to do on these interviews, I've found a lovely lady. So thank you to Julie for the recommendation and for sending me. So my guest today is Phinnah ChiChi. Some of you may know her already because she is, a well-known international speaker of repute. She's a coach for teens. She's a self-expressed. She says, I'm a lover of teens. Many of us will be holding our hands up to that title. She's certainly a lover of teens, as she says. And she's a teen coach. What does that all mean? And how is she going to be able to help us out here? And so without further ado, I'm just going to introduce Phinnah ChiChi, who is also an author of this lovely book. I don't know if you can see it up here. It says the Parenting TeenNavigation System. So I'm going to leave her to just say a few words about what she means by this. Are children now a sat nav or something? Just explain to us what's going on there. And then we'll ask her questions, which other people have asked me to ask her on their behalf. And then we'll be putting those across to Phinnah ChiChi. So Phinnah ChiChi, welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nonnie. I really appreciate this time that I have with you. I'm excited. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
And so the first thing I'm going to ask you, I've already introduced you, is I'm going to ask you, you heard the statistics I said at the opening. What's caused this? Is it the pandemic? I mean, are we going to blame COVID for this? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's so many. Thank you so much for that question. And I mean, it was heartbreaking seeing those statistics, very heartbreaking. And one of the main reasons, the COVID really affected kids, because teenagers are at their development stage where they're growing. So any interruption can cause more problems. Right. So they're growing socially. That social development is forming up. During the COVID, they had nearly 2 years where they couldn't interact with their friends. That disrupted them. During COVID, they had more time in isolation. So again, that brought about more opportunities for thoughts. This mental health is all about the thoughts that they're thinking. So it brought about increased worries, increased anxieties. And you and I, we all know that during the COVID as well, we heard that there was more prominent family problems in the home, because now dad was home, mom was home, more conflicts. So this played a part in the mental health of our children.
Wow. Okay. So I see. So basically, the recipe of the stay at home, the break of the usual routine, everything all together made this happen. Okay. Yes. So we are where we are. And I think what we can do is, what do you think is getting better now that we are post-COVID, or we're reopening, so to speak? What would you, I mean, I know you're talking to the teenagers. What do you think? Are they faring better now?
To be honest, it's the best thing for them to have gone back to school. That was definitely a big part of it. But then many are refusing to go to school because they've experienced that season where they didn't go to school. So now they're actually afraid or more anxious to go to school. It's happening in quite a few boroughs right now.
Oh,
as we
really?
speak.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. There's school refusals. So schools are having to adapt, allowing some kids to come in a bit later to school, just to kind of accommodate these problems that we have. So yes, I wouldn't say it's getting better, but what it has done now, it's now giving schools are now having to look wider into the help that they can offer. So more schools are having more teams on their mental health teams. I mean, you would think that school was just for academics, but now schools are having to go more than just academics. They're providing more mental health teams. More counselors are in schools now. I mean, in my days, we never had counselors in my.
We never had that. Yes.
So, but it's now needed. So those are the kind of things they're putting in place to actually help solve this problem.
Yes, actually, that article from the NHS Digital, and I will put that link in the chat, did say that 47,000 schools had now even had 24/7 counseling teams. I'm quite impressed. But I mean, I'm just wondering, can they really afford this? Because we all know the NHS is sort of on its knees, as the politicians like to say. How would they, I mean, how is this going to be, is there enough resource to help these young people from your experience?
You know what? Yes, and I think what needs to happen now is, I think there's a lot of things that just need to be changed. So the NHS now need to kind of start embracing the fact that there are some organizations out there that can do more of the helping now. It's not just on NHS to do the work. They can now start exposing themselves and referring young people to organizations like myself that actually help young people. There are many organizations that do this work, grassroots organizations, charities, you know, there's quite a lot. So now what NHS needs to do is partner with these organizations.
Right.
What are they doing? Where are the gaps that we can actually fill up for the NHS? And that's what needs to happen. And I think COVID has made NHS realize that we can't do this on our own. We need to be more open. We need to have more people on board in talking about these problems and what we can do about these problems.
Right. And so someone like you, because you were explaining to me that you were a teen coach, and I said, what does that mean? I mean, why does a teenager need a coach? So I suppose the help you're thinking the NHS should come to you to get will be from someone like yourself who will be a teen coach. Can you tell us what exactly that means and how that can help teenagers?
Yes. So a coach is slightly different from a counselor. So with a counselor would listen to the problems and stuff. With a coach, we look more into the future. So we set goals with teenagers. We get teenagers to start thinking more about their future. You see, when teenagers can think more about their future, there's more hope. And with more hope, less depression, because depression is more that they're feeling hopeless. They're feeling there's nothing else happening for them. So the work of a coach is to make these teenagers see more that they can achieve. Give them tools to learn how to think right, learn how to replace thoughts, because a lot of these things that are going on is the negative self-thinking and the negative self-talk. We know that, right? So our job as coaches is to help teenagers learn the tools to be able to think better and aim for their goals. When you see a teenager who has goals and is aiming for their goals and has learned the techniques to actually switch and replace their negative thoughts, start to do a lot of affirmations, start to think wider, start to embrace, yourself or who you are, start to change those negative self-talks. They are teenagers who are much, much better mentally, have a more healthier mental health. So that's the kind of work that we do.
Well, I mean, I think that obviously sounds like laudable work. Oh my word, I just got breaking news on my phone. Our Queen, Queen Elizabeth, has passed on. And so we're just going to express our condolences to the royal family and to Prince Charles and Camilla and Prince William and the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. And we just say, we all, I mean, I love the Queen. I grew up as a royalist. My mother loved the Queen and the royal family. So even from back home, I was always following everything they were doing and still do. So we just want to express our condolences to Her Majesty.
Yes, condolences to them.
Okay. So there's another thing about COVID. COVID's brought so much death and loss. And if you're really worried about death and loss. There is a separate video I've done on bereavement with also access to links that you can plug into. So I just want to just say that now, because obviously the Queen dying, she's been a constant figure for 70 years. So people are going to start to feel, oh God, another person again who's passed on, who is very dear to the nation. And so our thoughts are with her family at this time. So just going back to our topic, which is about teenage mental health. You were just saying, just to summarize, how you as a coach, obviously you're working with the teens. And in fact, like one thing you said in your book is that the teens actually tell you stuff. And I remember telling you that something you told me that the teens tell you, my daughter said to me,
yes.
The teens are also expecting something of us as the parents.
Yes.
And so my next question to you would be, how can we as parents, so these teenagers, they didn't make themselves. They came from people like you and me who produced a couple of them. Yes. So they've come from us. So how can we as the parents support these children? Just tell us briefly.
I did a recent video where I said, every teenager wants to be understood. And a teenager wants to be understood. And that being understood just means that they want to be listened to. And we need to learn how to actively listen to our teenagers. And I say this because it's not something that we grew up with. You know, if we said something, if your parents didn't listen, that was just what it was. So that's not a default skill that we all have as parents. So it's something we need to learn. Because when we actively listen to our teenagers, they feel understood and they can then really connect better with us. They can share with us those concerns that they have, because many teenagers are going around with concerns that are not shared with us.
Right.
Or they're sharing it with friends who don't even know any better. And so they're stuck, not moving anywhere, they just swallow up themselves in those thoughts. Again, no one cares. Teenagers tell me, my mom doesn't love me. And I'm like, did your mom ever tell you that? They go, no, but just the way she acts, I know she doesn't love me. And so we have to work on that script, changing that script, because their mom loves them. It's just that that's the assumptions that they've made. And they grow up with those assumptions and stick with those assumptions and then make choices based on those assumptions. So actively listening is very critical. It's very, very critical in getting our teenagers. Also, not criticizing them.
That's a hard one.
It's a hard one. I know. It's a very, very hard one. And I say this because I say, okay, because some parents have told me, why can't we criticize them constructively? I said, yes, you can criticize them constructively, but do we really know how to criticize constructively? And the answer is a big no. We don't know how to do that.
Yes.
So it's about learning how to actually criticize them constructively, doing that, and less shaming, because we grew up with that. Those were the norms of the parent language. We all grew up with that. But we know in today's world, a lot of, you know, we go to a lot of therapists, a lot of people are talking about how these things affected adults in their childhood. So that's what teenagers are showing us today, that those ways don't work. We need to unlearn those things that we grew up with, because it's not working for them in this 21st century. And it's important that parents are sensitive to these things, because you share the statistics. The statistics are there to prove that we've got to do something more, something different from what we're already doing. So that, and then shouting. A lot of teenagers take shouting at them very personal. I did that as a teenager as well. I hated being shouted at. I couldn't understand why adults had to shout. I just couldn't understand it. So I can understand teenagers because they don't get it. They're like, why is she shouting? Can't she just speak normal, in a normal tone? Why can't the dad just speak in a normal tone? You know, so it's something that now with these statistics that we see, we need to work on. And if we commit ourselves to working on this, we can really do it. Because the teenage years, I mean, you look at their children's years, from 0 to 18, before you know it, they're grown. They've gone to university, they've become young adults. I have a lot of parents of young adults who their young adults are confronting them now. What you did, what you did, what you said, what you did. We're having to deal with all of that.
Wow. Okay, that sounds really scary. Look, I'm not going to say too much. Just look at this book and go and get yourself a copy. This is the kind of book, you know, I mean, I've done obstetrics, we delivered babies. I tell you what comes out when you have a baby. You get the baby, you get the placenta, you cut the cord, you don't get a manual.
That's
right. You
right.
don't get a manual. So when you have someone who's been there, she's a mom, she's 2 adults, 2 teens, and she's telling you, or she's a teen coach, and she's speaking, she has the ear of our teenagers, and she's telling you what to do. Look, this is kind of book I wish I had earlier. I have 1 adult, I have 1 teenager, and I have patience who have teenagers who come to me looking for me to solve the problems. And
Yes.
so, this is just information. And I like the fact that you really, I mean, I read other books on parenting, but I think while I had to interview you for yours was because yours spoke to me as someone who was raised in Africa, raising children in the diaspora. And I'm just going to say out there that, look, guys, the way we were raised back home will only work if you have a compliant child. And many kids today are anything but compliant. I'm lucky I have a compliant child. And so I can, whenever he says he's done so well, I think it's also his personality. It was easy for me. But when you have the child who thinks they know everything, who are strong-willed, who have a lot of influences from peers as they do, they spend so much time on social media, then such parents are going to be clashing with those children, because they may say something like, because I had another lady who sent a question. She said to me, people are complaining about their female children. Everyone is saying boys are so much easier to raise, which you would have thought would be the opposite, because when we were growing up, girls were easier to raise. So how can we raise our teenage girls? What are we doing wrong? How are we offending them?
I think the difference is that girls are just more expressive. I think that's what it is. Because the boys as well, they can sometimes are feeling the hurt, but boys know how to suppress those emotions.
I see.
So a lot of boys are actually walking around with suppressed emotions. So you find out a lot of boys will go into their caves. Either they're playing games or they're focusing on social media, or some of them even go into pornography. So there's a lot of suppressed emotions with boys. Boys are able to kind of like leave it to the point and say, you know what, can't be bothered, let me focus on this more. But when you get to start talking to boys, they do feel that as well. Just that they are less expressive. The girls are like, I can't take this anymore. Why did this happen? Why did you talk to me? I felt this, I felt. So girls are more expressive than the boys. So I would encourage parents, don't ignore the boys who are not really talking. Always ask boys, how are you feeling? How are you doing? Always try to find out, because sometimes they have just suppressed it for so long and it shows up later, because suppressed emotions will not stay in for too long. It will show up one way or the other.
Wow. Well, on that scary note, I think I'm going to leave it for now. I'm going to just give you a few minutes. Just tell us about the book in your own words. It's always nice to hear from the author. What did you have in mind, and what do you want us to take home message, where we can get the book, things like that. So I'll let you have the last words.
Thank you so much. I think the reason I wrote this book, the Parenting Teens Navigation System, is that the teen's journey the teen's years is a journey. And by the time they're 18, going into university, and we lose out of this time, the teenagers are growing. They're becoming their own independent selves. So we need to understand them. We need to know that parenting teenagers is different from parenting younger children. And this book was written for every parent who has teenagers, or who will even have teenagers, who their children are growing, to read it and understand what the teenager wants. And this is not just about satisfying the teenager, but it's also satisfying the family. Because when you understand the teenagers and you're able to communicate and connect with the teenagers better, then you have a better family life, better family connections, and you're securing your relationship for the future with them. Because as adults, you want to continue having the relationship. But if the relationship is messed up in the teenage years, it's very hard to fix it in the adult years. So get a copy of the book. It's all on Amazon. You're in the States, in Canada, in Australia, in the UK, wherever you are, these books are available. I've actually sent some copies as well to Lagos. So if anyone wants to get a copy, get in touch with me and we'll get that delivered to you as well in Nigeria. Thank you.
Well, I think I've said enough. I mean, the word is enough for the wise. This is the kind of book I got. I mean, this was sent to me actually while I was in Canada. I read it in one evening. I just sat with it, opened the first few pages. I thought, whoa, what's this? And this is on the back, as I said, I'm reading another very chunky book. And I thought, this is for our people. This is written because you understand us. So thank you so much for writing this. And I'm very proud of you. And I think it's not even your first one. I'm told you've written others as well. So maybe I'll have to look it up. Is there any way we can reach you if we want you to come and speak at our meetings, maybe parent meetings or churches, or to speak to organizations, or even the NHS want to get your help? How do we reach you? Do you have any?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn at Phinnah ChiChi. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook at Phinnah ChiChi. And I've got a parenting page as well, Parenting Teen Solutions. on Instagram and Facebook, and also my website. I'm updating my website, but yes, my website as well is available.
All right. So we're going to have all that information in the chat. So please join me again and say a very big thank you to Phinnah ChiChi. Thank you for your time. I know you're a very busy lady.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for squeezing us in. And we'll put the contact details for Phinnah ChiChi in the chat, like I said, as well as the NHS Digital Solutions website, so you can read more of those terrible stats for yourself. And then if you know of anyone who would benefit from this video, please do well, as Martina will say, to subscribe and to share and to get the word out. We need to help our teens. This is not about getting me subscribers. Like I say, I've already done my adult child. I have one off to uni and I have just my twin left. So it's for the people coming behind. We didn't know, as you said in your book, you said, we didn't know, so we didn't do. We know better now, we have to do better. And I'll leave you with those words. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Nonnie. Thank you.